And we are back. We're lighting the candle of completion here on episode 10 of season 2, Quantum Alchemist. I am your host, Mr. Alchemistic. You can call me B. I'm joined by Mr. Quantum himself, my gracious co host, Alex Romero Vingian.
What's up, B? What's up, everybody? How are you doing today, B?
I'm doing excellent, my friend. In a really good place mentally. Had some great meditations the last few days. Have some good stories to tell you guys that are very relevant, that can kind of help with the theme of this episode, which is helping others despite the fact that they may not like it. That's
Right?
kind of a convoluted way to put it, but just the kind of the path we've been called to is it's kind of a thankless journey sometimes, and we have to show up as ourselves, despite the world may not like the message that we have. They may not like the self reflection or the help that we offer, but it's important to show up as us nonetheless.
Right. Yeah.
And
If you feel like you got to do something when you see something like on the street or if you're out and about, like that's your intuition giving you that nudge. It's giving you the opportunity. It's almost like Groundhog Day,
mm,
right? Every day that we go and we live on, it's like, he had many opportunities. For those of you who haven't seen it, well, Bill Murray, I recommend you go watch it. We have those opportunities every single day. Granted, they're not identical, but the opportunities are pretty much the same. Even something as simple as holding a door open, like earlier today. I saw a woman walking with a baby in a stroller and a little boy, and she was trying to go into this fenced area. And I was sitting down, and she's all sitting there trying to like push it through. I got up off my chair and I helped her go through the doorway. I was called to do it. I'm like, well, what a dick move for me to just sit there and watch her struggle with her stroller and her baby. Like I couldn't bring myself to do it. So I got up off my chair and I helped, you know. So pretty much the theme of this podcast today is, I love the stories that you told me. And I think that they're very relevant to the theme today. So yeah.
yeah, actually, I got a good quote from Manly P. Hall, and I've been trying to get at least one quote in per episode. And this is from Talks to Students on Occult Philosophy. And it goes, all who take up the study of the sacred truths look forward to the day when they shall be elected by their God to go forth to the world with a message of light and true knowledge. Somewhere within every soul is hidden a great longing, a great desire for self expression, to be of real use and to find the best way of expanding. The mystic realizes that the way to gain is to give, and that when he strives to give to the world that which he has received, he is most certain to receive more. As his thoughts and his ideals are raised and lifted to the nobler and finer things, as he tries to prove to others the existence of these subtler forms, his own consciousness is lifted and he is inspired in his message to man. He then not only gives forth, but also receives a great spiritual ordination, a baptism of life and power, which glorifies him, as in his humble way he seeks to glorify it. Manly P. Hall talks to students on occult philosophy. So
Nice.
yeah, it's I like that quote to go along with the theme of today is when you're on this path, you feel compelled to help. It's part of the path is to help others, is to try to shine a light for others. And I watched this really powerful video that I found. It's dealing with esoteric versus exoteric knowledge. Like exoteric is, if you want to look at it from like the Christian lens, exoteric Christianity would be the church's Christianity, right? The message that the masses receive. It's a very three dimensional material world type of message. It's rooted in the tangible. It's rooted in what we can touch and smell and see and hear. The rooted in the five senses. It's the 3D material world view. It's the translation for the surface level masses. And then there's the deeper esoteric knowledge which oftentimes can't be explained. It can't be put into words. It's something you must experience within yourself. It's something that the mystical must be experienced by the individual. And oftentimes, when we're on this path, we experience the mystical and we struggle to relate it to others who haven't experienced the same thing. And
Is it safe to call the esoteric like inner standing?
absolutely, yes. It's like I said, man. And this video I found on TikTok explained it perfectly. It's just like when you're on the mystic path, when you experience this oneness, the truth of God, and the experience of the mystical, it's not an experience that the masses can relate to, which is why the exoteric interpretations are needed, because not everybody is meant to have the mystical experience in this lifetime. But the esoteric, the hidden, is for the mystic. It's for the person who experiences this um, profound
Initiation.
this profound truth within that is really hard for the masses to understand. And Alex, you and I have really struggled with this. We've gone through hermit modes and we've gone through our revelations of self of these truths while being isolated from others, and then we go back out into the world and we realize like how few people really understand it, and it's because it's hard to put into words what this experience is. And well, a lot of this esoteric knowledge is symbolism, right? It's symbolic. It's the stuff that comes out in my artwork, the yin and yang with the the Sri Yantra type shit, the pentagram, the pentacle. We got the zodiac and the infinite mask up here, the Fibonacci sequence. It's like sacred geometry really kind of has that symbology, right? It's like this underlying truth that's very subtle, which is what Manly P. Hall is kind of talking about there. You experience this subtle truth that escapes the perception of most people. And it's really hard to relay to them what you've experienced. And a lot of people get called crazy, right? You get called crazy, you get called, oh, this guy's nuts, right? When you
He's
try
off
to
travel.
explain this. And I had an experience with nature that I, later on, as after the experience happened, in my meditation, I got this message that, hey, this is your path, right? This is a metaphor for your path. And this is just the way that God speaks to us is through metaphor and through symbology, symbolism. And it's a very powerful way that God communicates with you once you've really broken through and created this relationship with the creator within you. Is like you have these different tests or these different things that happen in your life, and this particular experience was very it made me really sad, right? Because I felt like I did the right thing, and I'll let you guys in on the story. So my mom has a lake out back in out back of her property, and it's a lake. It's like a man-made lake that she's on this housing tract where there's these drains that drain into this lake. So it's just this water feature of the property, but it's fed by the rains, right? So there's these drains that drain into this lake, these like big holes in the side of the hill where the water drains from the street into this lake. And then there's these little two little concrete fingers that looks like fingers almost that come out that separate the drainage area from the actual lake, so the water can come through this like little like in between the two concrete fingers, so it keeps the water from the drainage area separate from the lake, right? And there's these geese that set up their nest on the edge of one of these fingers, right? And the concrete has grown over with overgrowth with bushes and grass and stuff. So it was actually a perfect, like pretty ingenious place for the goose to put its nest because it's protected from all angles except for this one area. It's like a peninsula, right? It sticks out into the water like a finger, and the goose put it at the very tip of the finger. And so there's only this one area from the ground that the goose had to defend. Otherwise, it's surrounded by water. So it was a great place until the rains came, right? We had this really big storm last week, and the water started rising up, and I looked at my mom. And this goose had been hanging tough for a week on these eggs, like trying to hatch them. And this water starts rising, and we're like, "Oh shit, what are we gonna do? Should we just like let watch this happen?" We've been watching this goose, trying to hatch these eggs for a week. It was just a shame. It was just like, man, this all of her work is gonna go for naught because these eggs are gonna washed away. So we're at first we were like, nah, we gotta let nature do its thing. The goose put the nest there. She's gotta reap the result. And so I let it go for another couple of hours. And as the water was getting up, I was like, you know what, man, I gotta do something. I gotta try to help this goose. Because I just didn't want to see her eggs lost. So my mom had this plastic crate, and so I grabbed this plastic crate, take off my shoes, and I'm wading out on this peninsula that's half water. It's half flooded, so my feet are in the water, and I'm like basically on the plank, like trying to balance as I get closer, the goose and her mate start attacking me, right? So I'm like flailing my arms with a crate in one arm. I'm trying to get these geese to like not knock me into the water because I literally have water on each side of me. It's probably a pretty funny scene to watch from a distance. These geese attacking me. So finally, I get up to the nest, right, and I pick up the nest, and I'm able to get it all into the crate, and I move it up to higher ground. And I'm like, okay, good, I saved the nest. And eventually, the water did rise up over the finger, and it would have washed these eggs away. So I'm like, okay, I saved the nest, and I set it on this higher ground. I'm just waiting for the geese to find it, and hours go by, and these geese are looking in the area where the nest was, trying to find their eggs. And I'm like, dummies, it's up here, And I'm watching and I'm watching. I'm like, fuck, they're not getting it right. So I moved the nest a little bit closer back towards where it was at in a safe place, but like so they could see it. And then I was like, I've done all I can do for the night. And I go to bed and I come up the next morning and the geese are still looking in the same area. Meanwhile, the fucking nest is right there. They're kind of walking by it, but not acknowledging it. And I must have got my scent on it or something. They just completely just didn't acknowledge the eggs. And then another day went by and then the eggs were gone. Something came and ate them. So like I was telling Alex in the pre-talk, man, it was just like I was really sad, because it was just like those eggs were doomed no matter what. Because if I hadn't done anything, it would have washed them away. The rains would have washed them into the lake. It would have been Dunsky. And so at least by moving the eggs, some predator got a meal out of it. That was the one thing that I could say is like at least something
It's
got
not
fed.
funny, guys. It's not funny.
It
I just
is
the
like
way you
it's
put it.
fucked up that the geese didn't hatch, but now the geese are actually out there again, getting ready to build another nest and have more eggs. So
Hopefully not
um,
on the finger part.
no, exact same place. They're putting it on the exact same place. They're fucking stupid. They didn't learn their
So
fucking
they
lesson.
clearly did not learn
They didn't
anything.
learn their lesson. And this is so I was super sad about this, and I
So,
had
so,
a
so, so the question is now, did they not learn their lesson because you moved it, and they're thinking, oh, someone just stole it, and so they weren't able to, connect the dots of like, oh, it's because of the water, like, you know what I'm saying, like,
yeah.
because
I mean, dude,
instead they
I kind of
let the water wash it away. It would have been just the water washed it away.
I agonized over it for a day or two, just thinking, did I do the right thing? Should I just have let the eggs go, and then the geese would have I don't know. I don't know if I did the right thing. People in the comments, let me know if you guys watched this, if you think I did the right thing or if I should have just left them alone.
I totally
But
think you did.
um, it was so I was super sad about this, right? And I was just bummed, and I was like, because I was having this moral dilemma: did I do the right thing? Should I have done it? So I meditated on it, and basically, I had a really powerful message from God about it, and it's um basically the message I got was this is your path. Like the geese are a metaphor, are a symbol of what I'm putting you out in the world to do, which is what we're doing with this podcast. It's what I'm trying to do just in my life in general is put out this message, right? Of trying to help others, this oneness, right? This oneness that I've experienced through this mystical experience with God, getting closer to God and understanding that what my path really is, and it's to try to bring others to the mystical experience as well, so that they can experience what I experience. But as we find on this trip, through this journey through life, is like not everybody's meant to have this experience. God didn't put this experience in everybody's timeline, right? For this lifetime, at least. A lot of people are going to be like the geese, right? They're going to fight me, try to knock me off my plank where I'm standing, right? They're going to fight me, despite the fact I'm trying to save their eggs, right? Trying to save their eggs from the water rising. They're going to resent me for it and try to fight me, and it was a really powerful metaphor that I came out of this meditation and just started bawling, because I just was this realization that this is what I have to be okay with in my life. Is like I still showed up as me, right? By trying to help. I showed up as me in this situation, trying to help these geese, and that's who I am. And I stayed true to myself. I couldn't sit back and watch this water wash these eggs away. So I tried to do my best to help. And sometimes this is just the message I'm giving to you guys, is like, just because it didn't work out doesn't mean you shouldn't try to help, right? Just
Right.
because somebody resents you, or they don't take your advice, or or whatever, like you have to show up as yourself. And if you're on this path like we are,
I do want to add
good.
something to that because I want to throw in a dynamic that most people won't recognize right away, but there was literally zero incentive for you to do this. Okay, and there was no incentive. You weren't going to gain anything out of going out of your way to help this animal, right? And why I say this is because if you go out of your way because there's an incentive behind it, then that also too is not necessarily like the incentive should be because the right thing to do is the right thing to do. That should be the
Yeah.
incentive,
And
right?
it was pretty hairy too, man. Like I said, I could have very well got knocked into the water from these geese. Like there was no guarantees that I was coming out of there unscathed. I could have ended up in the water. It could have been a really shitty day for me.
Right. And all because you were just trying to help. And so for those of you out there, like, that was a selfless act. There was nothing for him to gain out of this. So, when you do things out of the kindness of your heart because it's the right thing to do, like those things come back to you. And when you only do things because you're an opportunist, those things come back to you too. And not necessarily in the way that you want to, you know. But just keep that in mind. Like, helping people isn't always about what am I going to get out of it? Because sometimes it's just the right thing to do, especially if you can or if you're able to. Like, like me getting up just to go and help that woman with her stroller. Like, it didn't take anything out of me, just me getting up off my ass, you
Yeah.
know?
And like you can't get discouraged at the result either, Just show up as you. Just show up as you. Do the thing that your heart tells you to do. And if the result doesn't happen the way you want it to, it just
Right.
is what it is. And this is the path that we're on. Is a lot of people aren't going to understand. Like I was saying with the esoteric and exoteric, a lot of people are on that surface level, and they aren't meant for the deeper things. So all you can do is show up as you, and give your perspective, give your best foot forward, put your best foot forward, and the results are the results. And you can't let that deter you from in the future trying to help as well. Because I got another opportunity a few days later to help nature again. And another story I told Alex was my mom and I were at this park, and there's a water feature at this park. They call it a waterfall, but it's more just like a water slide of like rocks, right? It's like this slippery rock area that comes down to 45, where this creek changes elevation and goes to a lower elevation.
It's
And
like it's like a runoff.
runoff, yeah, it's like a creek runoff. That's a perfect way to describe it. But there's like it's rocky, like really slick and rocky, and there's these little pools that have accumulated right? From because there's various amount levels of water that come down this waterfall. Some days there's a lot of water, and some days there's less water. And on the days there's less water, there's these pools that have accumulated on the outskirts of this waterfall. So on this particular day, we go there, and there's this big, huge fish, like literally like big, like twice the length of a football and twice the girth. He was a large bass, especially for a creek this size. It's not a very big creek. So my mom and I were like, "Whoa, look at the size of this guy!" I was like, "Man, it's just a shame that he's dead," you know. So we walk up on him, and then we see his little eye twitch. We're like, "Oh shit, he's still alive!" So immediately we're like, "We got to help this thing, right? This thing's huge. Like, it would be a
Imagine,
shame."
imagine you take the previous. Oh, let's just let nature take its course.
Yeah, yeah. We'll just let him die. We'll let the buzzards have him. The buzzards would have ate for days off that thing. It was big. So I tried to grab him by the tail, right, which is like silly because he's slick. I don't know if you guys have ever touched a fish before, but they're fucking slippery. So I tried to grab him by the tail, and he was too big and too slippery and too strong. He started flapping around. So I tried to grab him like a football, right? And again, he was just too damn strong. This thing was fucking big and strong, dude. I could not believe how strong this thing was. Just feeling the force of him, like he was moving like I mean, you think about it, a fish is just a giant muscle, right? And all they do is exercise all day as they're swimming. But that he was fucking strong, dude. So I tried to pick him up. He literally like slapped me with his tail and flapped. So I was like, shit, what do I do? I grabbed this big ass stick and I start like shuffleboarding him down this fucking rocky like area to the different big like there's a big pool in the middle that I was trying to get him to. Eventually I succeeded, got into the big pool, and then he like popped up out of the pool and then got stuck near the bottom of this fucking runoff. He just got
Banked
stuck
himself again.
right in the middle. He was just sitting on the top. The water is like flowing over him, but it's not enough to bring him down the rest of the way. So my mom gets this big, long, like 15-foot long stick, and I like tippy toe my way out to this rock, and it's slippery as fuck, man. Like literally, I could have slipped and fell down and broke my crown like Jack and Jill, you know, like so I'm fucking tippy toeing out there on this waterfall with this big long stick, and I eventually shuffleboarded him, bam, off into the creek. He swam away, and we were victorious in saving the fish. So I
Nice.
felt after the goose thing, I felt a little bit better after that. I was like, at least we got an opportunity to help out, and
You had one win, one loss.
yeah, I'm 1-1 with nature right now.
Yep.
Um,
Awesome. Well, at
so
least you
yeah,
tried.
I didn't let the goose situation deter me from trying to help this fish, even though that shit that situation was even more dangerous than the goose situation because I literally was on this very precarious waterfall fucking rock with a stick shuffleboarding a fish off, and so it was like I had nothing to gain there. I had everything to lose. But I showed up as me, right? I wanted to help this animal that was helpless. It was gonna die. So anyway, those are my
I love
two
it.
stories
I love it.
about
I think it's great.
yeah. So to segue, we want to talk about the economy, right, and the stuff that's going on with tariffs and the stock market and the dollar. Um, Alex
Now,
sent me this. Was
oh,
that?
I was gonna say to clarify, you were just about to say I sent you a video. Can you clarify what video that was? Because I'm not sure. I'm not sure which one you're talking about.
It was what was this dude's name? He's an economist talking about the dollar.
Gregory Manfrini.
It was let's see, the systemic failure video.
I think his name is Gregory
Gre-
Manfrini.
Gregory Manarino.
Oh, Manarino.
He's a
Manarino.
stock trader. Yeah.
Yeah.
So basically, this dude is sounding the alarm on the economy, like which like I told Alex after watching it. I've heard this kind of stuff for a long time now. I used to watch this guy. What is his name? He was the dollar vigilante. was his.
Yeah, I remember that. I
Yeah, the
remember
dollar vigilante. He's a crypto guy,
him.
right? And during COVID, he was a big conspiracy. He is a conspiracy guy, but he founded Anarchapulco. He's an anarchist, and he's a crypto guy. And so he's saying a lot of the same stuff. 5 years ago, when COVID was going on, that the dollar's going to crash, the
Right,
economy's going to crash. We're gonna have another Great Depression. Uh,
right. Great
basically,
Depression
this is
2.0.
he's basically signaling the death knell of the dollar, which has really been going on with a lot of economists off and on since 2008. The mortgage crisis of 2008 was a huge, um, what do they call it? Uh,
Signal,
yeah, it was. What do they call it? Like a white, no.
red
Anyway,
herring,
yeah, yeah, it was a herring event.
red
Red
herring.
herring, red herring event.
Yeah.
Um, it was a big signal that things aren't going right with the economy, and ever since we have been taken off the gold standard, Nixon took us off the gold standard in the 70s, I believe. The dollar has been in this very precarious position where they just keep printing money. They keep printing money and printing money and printing money,
Well,
devaluing the dollar, and they've been doing
backed
it.
by petroleum, backed by the purchase of petroleum in U.S. dollars, right?
Yeah, it went from
The
the gold
petrodollar.
standard to the petroleum, the petrodollar, which is more
Mhm.
ambiguous, right? They have more wiggle room to play with, and they've been able to print money willy nilly, which they did in mass during COVID, which is one of the reasons why the dollar vigilante was sounding the alarm about the dollar, was that they printed 40% of all money in existence during COVID, so there was a huge um, money printing bonanza during COVID. And that's, a lot of the economists won't admit it today, at least the mainstream. In the mainstream, they're trying to blame it on Biden and this and that and all this other stuff. It was really the Fed. It's the Fed's
Yep,
fault, but
the money printer.
the Fed is controlled by the people who run the world. So they like to deflect the blame away from themselves on any kind of economic apocalyptic scenarios, but they're squarely to blame for printing all this money. If inflation has happened because of the money printing during COVID, and you never hear the mainstream media talk about this, because they don't want
They,
you to
they,
understand money. They don't want you to
they-
understand what the fuck's really going on with the economy.
right.
So they never tell you what's really wrong. It's always, oh, the price of eggs and the price of gas and blah, 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 and they always try to deflect and distract, and they don't really ever
Yeah,
tell you that, oh yeah, it was because we printed all this fucking money during COVID. That's why
right.
it's inflation is so bad,
Which,
because they
which
don't
by the
want you to
way, guys,
understand money.
which by the
Which
way, guys, them calling for lower rates only means one thing: more printing of money. By the way,
mm-hmm.
so that means what? More inflation, hyperinflation, perhaps.
It's the modus operandi, it's the mo that they've been going with since they went off the gold standard, is kicking the can down the road, right? It's like keeping the economy together with chewing gum and paper clips and rubber bands, and kicking the can down the road because it's been working for this long. We're just going to keep doing it until we blow the thing up, and
Right.
that's literally been what's been happening for the last 30, 40 years.
Yeah, because
um,
you know who's buying our debt, right?
China.
Nobody.
Well, China was.
Nobody. Yeah. So that's funny because that guy Gregory says that there was that Scott Bassett, the U.S. Treasury guy, saying that there was some trade talks with China. It's funny because yesterday he was saying this is bullshit. There's no trade talks with China. That was yesterday, right? Shows you the headlines. Today shows you the headlines. He goes, just like I said, China clarifies no trade talks with U.S. It's like, bro, it's all smokescreen. It's all bullshit. He's like, bro, there's no trade talks. So like it's funny. I mean, it's funny and it's not, but these people are that like they're just doing their job. Their job is to bankrupt the country. That's what they're doing.
Yeah, I mean, this is literally the systemic problem we've had since Nixon went off the gold standard. This is been the end game, right? Is like they're gonna pump up this cash cow until it blew up, right? This is what the original plan was when they did this, is they wanted to create this Ponzi scheme of the dollar. They turned the dollar into a Ponzi scheme, and they're like, well, we're just gonna keep inflating this thing, this balloon, until it blows up. Well, now the bills come and due, right? We're getting to the point where they can't really blow it up much bigger. And this guy in this
Deficit's
video,
way too high. Deficit's way too high.
yeah, the guy in this video was talking about this is like, um, this is where we're at. Is like he was talking about hedging with gold and silver and crypto, right? Is like you're gonna have to take your eggs, right? The eggs, and this is where we're at. This is where the correlation is with my story earlier. Is like we're here. We're not here. Like don't shoot the messenger, right? We're here to give you unfortunate news, and the unfortunate news is that this motherfucker is gonna blow up at some point. It could be this year. It could be next year. It could be
Right.
5 years. But
Right. Except for we talked about this in previous podcasts, which is planets aligning, right? Planets, stars are aligning. So yes, while B is right, it could be any time. We've got every reason to believe it's going to be this year because we have 101 reasons why it should be this year based on what history has shown us.
well, yeah, we've talked about the astrology in past episodes. There's a lot of astrological events that are pointing to chaos. And, we talk about the power structure. Their motto is order out of chaos, right? COVID, I believe now, 5 years down the road, COVID was a test run of seeing how let's present a pandemic, right, to stir up some chaos. This stir up some chaos in the population, see how compliant they are with our top-down control mechanisms like the COVID pass, right? Let's see how information will give them fucking a bunch of lies and bullshit, and see how many people comply without asking questions and how many people rebel, right? So they have a pretty good gauge of how many people are going to be compliant and how many people aren't. So that they presented a little bit of chaos because eventually, and this is something I told Alex, is like the show Mr. Robot is a very good indicator of what is going to happen when the shit hits the fan. You guys have never seen Mr. Robot before. Uh, it's a show with Christian Slater and what's that dude's name from the Queen movie? He played Freddie Mercury. Uh, I don't
I'm
remember his
terrible.
name. It's like
I'm terrible.
I want to say it's Remi something. But anyway, it's called Mr. Robot. Guys, look into the show. It's about a hacker group that they hack this giant corporation that the whole economy is based on this corporation. It's called the E-Corp, right? And this hacker group hacks them and destroys their stock, and that basically causes um, a massive collapse of the entire structure of society. And it's really a good indicator. Rami Malak is his name. He's the main star, and it's a really good show if you want predictive programming of how the world will react when the entire economic system just collapses. So it's something to look at and to prepare for, right? I told you, get gold and silver, get crypto. You have to hedge against the dollar if you want to prepare for a dollar collapse, because eventually the dollar is going to collapse. It is inevitable at this point where there's too
Right.
much debt on it. It's basically a debt. It's just entirely based on debt at this point. And
Right. Exit stage left, the US dollar, enter stage right, CBDC.
yeah.
That's what
So don't shoot the messenger. Actually, I really have to go to the bathroom. So let's cut off this. We only got 5 minutes left on this time. So let's cut this part out. We'll continue in part two to really get into depth the economy and what we can expect and what you guys need to do and just kind of protect your eggs, right? So yeah, we'll be back with part two on to help you protect your eggs and don't fight us like the geese.
Right.
Don't be like the geese. We're
Don't be
only
the
trying
geese.
to help. We'll be back with part two.
Is any of it real? World built on fantasy. Synthetic emotions in the form of pills. Psychological warfare in the form of advertising. Mind-altering chemicals in the form of food. Brainwashing seminars in the form of media. Controlled, isolated bubbles in the form of social networks. Real? You want to talk about reality? We haven't lived in anything remotely close to it since the turn of the century.
And we're back with part 2. Thank you very much, Mr. Robot. And yeah, we're going to talking more about the economy. We left off kind of signaling
So
the little alarm. What's that?
Mr. Robot, they hacked a company, and the company was what the entire economy was based on.
Yeah, it was E-Corp, which in the show he the hacker guy Remi Malak played nicknamed it Evil Corp, but it was the E-Corp, and this corporation was tied into every facet of the economy. I guess you could kind of compare it to like Amazon would be very similar to, like, it's just had its tentacles in all these different aspects of the economy. So it's when
or
it's
or the, or the Virginia company.
I would say, actually it's probably more like BlackRock or Vanguard. It was just like kind of like a very important hedge fund economic giant. And he was doing freelance third party work through the company he worked for, doing tech work for them. And so him and his hacker group hatched this plan to bring down E-Corp. And when they did the successful hack, it was the very end. The last episode of season 1 is where they successfully pull off the hack, and they totally tank their stock and wipe out all their info, all their data that they had on basically everybody. It was like they're involved. Like I think they're kind of like a bank too. So like a lot of people's their entire bank accounts were wiped out. Like it was bad. And so they successfully do it at the end of season 1. The season 2 the episode premiere of season 2 is the aftermath, right? And Rami Malek's like walking around the city, and like people can't access their ATMs. Like it's just fucking chaos. And it's like he didn't realize how bad it was going to be, that the ramifications of his actions. So, but when I saw that show, it was during I think it was during COVID that I saw it, and I was like, man, this is like really eerie, because this is exactly what it would be like if the economy really collapsed. So, and not to be Chicken Little saying the sky's falling, because like I said, they've been talking about this since 2008, since the big mortgage crisis, which was 17 years ago. So um, they might find ways to prop the system up with chewing gum and paper clips like they have been, or they could pull the rug out. And it's certain.
Right before the break, we left off at the fact that the stars and the planets are aligning,
Mhm.
and we have every reason to believe that that time is
No.
coming very near.
Well,
And
it certainly seems to be pointing that way with a lot of the Trump tariff stuff, the trade war hysteria, and the stuff going on with Elon, and Tesla stock is tanking, and Elon is a big major player on the world stage in business, and there's just a lot of stuff with the media and their attacks on Trump, and it really seems like another red herring moment is approaching, much like 2008.
yeah,
So it's always good to be prepared. It's
something also to look out for everybody. And I didn't have a chance to brief you on this earlier, but I was on a Twitter space. And I recommend you guys look up on Twitter, on X Space, Donnie the Misfit, Doni the Misfit. And she's actually an activist, and she's actually sounding the alarm on poultry, believe it or not, sounding the alarm on our chicken, that they're going after our food supply, that they're basically trying to find reasons or ways that they can personify or give livestock, personalities, and then say that they're in danger of animal cruelty so that we can no longer eat animals, and starting with chickens. And I may be like um uh what's it called? Um where I'm like paraphrasing, uh, a great deal, but the point of the matter is that if you wherever you live at, and if poultry is a big deal, and chicken farming is a big deal, like check into your local chicken farms and see what's happening with them, because there's a lot of operations being conducted behind the scenes to try and seize people's chickens, which is, if you can't control their money, or if you do control their money and you want even more control over your people, what else do you go after? Well, you go after the food supply, just in case you didn't catch them with the money.
Well, it's just it was another that's another thing that was kind of highlighted during COVID was the supply chains. There's issues with the supply chains for a while, and there's a lot of people sounding the alarm on that possibility. And then you had Bill Gates buying up farmland and basically trying to foist cricket burgers, and there's all these. The World Economic Forum was talking about these
Bugs.
all yeah eating the bugs, these alternate food sources. And so this has kind of been a culmination of things that started or a few years back with the and then a lot of food production companies. There's these big fires that destroyed a lot of food production. Recently we had the egg prices soaring because they had the large chicken kill off. They killed off a bunch of chickens. The egg
Also,
supply was in peril.
yeah, and the weather too. Also, when you have weather, tornadoes, fires, floods, things like that, killing off crops all over the world.
Yeah. I mean, this has been in the works for a while. And like I said, it's been a plan. The order out of chaos is the motto of the people who run this place. So it's called the great work of the ages, if you really want to look into the things that they've been planning for decades and probably longer. Maybe it's just this rug pull event that's going to shock the world, to shock especially the developed world that's used to a certain standard of living, that a lot of the food is supplied by trucks. We don't have we have an economy and a population that uh, gets their food from the stores, right? They don't produce their own food. So this type of event, this red herring event, where there's economic destabilization, there's some kind of food supply destabilization, all these things, collectively. And like I said, COVID was a big time test. I believe it was, to me, looking back upon it and what all it entailed, it seemed like a test of the system. It was and whether or not they orchestrated it on purpose, releasing this virus on the population and then seeing what happened from there, or whether they just pivoted and used the virus as an excuse to do this live test war game. It certainly seems, looking back upon it, that it was some kind of gathering operation where they're gathering live war game type of data. It was a live event that
Hmm.
they received a lot of data from on how to
Yeah.
operate during certain crises.
You know what
And
I also believe that they did during that time? I believe during that time they were running AI and doing facial recognition, especially with the masks,
mhm,
so that they could actually train them with only half the data, so that when the masks would come off, they'd be able to match the other half.
yeah. Well, also to be able to just identify someone based on this, right? Like
Hmm.
testing their technology to see if they could successfully, and they do.
Hmm.
They have the measurements of your face. Like everyone, your face is like your thumbprint, right? Like everyone's got unique fingerprints, and everyone's got a unique face, and they can find your face just like they can find you in a database on your fingerprints. They can do it with your face as well.
Yep.
So yeah, it was a live event, right? Like what do they call it?
Live
Uh
fire exercise.
Intelligence. It was a live intelligence operation, and on data gathering, war gaming, on every level, psychological operation. That it was a ritual. There's so many different boxes that COVID ticked, and I think it set the stage for how they're going to respond and how they expect you to respond to some kind of future stimuli, right? Because it's just an experiment. We are really cattle to these people, right? The, the
Bah!
the population at large is looked at upon
I couldn't.
dismissively as cattle. That's how they really view us. The people in power, the people that run this place, really look at upon us as cattle, and they treat us as such. And a lot of you are, let's be honest. Not to be a dick, but a lot of you operate like cattle from a low level, low vibrational state of mind,
Yeah.
and you're easily herded into ideological boxes, and you do your duty. You get your vax when they tell you to, and yeah, and you listen to
Yep,
the
man.
mainstream media, and you follow the fucking the cattle cart, right? So yeah, it's I fully expect, and this is something we've talked about before, but like the politics is just a distraction, like the Trump stuff, and we talked a lot about that stuff during the election, how we did like some of the stuff he's saying and this and that, and the things that he's proposing, but also I've been saying all along, I don't trust this guy. I think that he's involved. I think it's all a fucking illusion. I think it's all a puppet show. And now we're kind of seeing, as we get more data from the puppet show from the TV show that is the United States, as we can look upon it with more and more data, you can kind of see how this has all been orchestrated. And
Yep.
I talked about this last episode. We've been in this psychological operation of ideological subversion for, I mean, really since the Cold War, if you want to go back to it, but specifically within the last 10 years since Trump came on the stage, we've been in this very divide and conquer type of atmosphere where we've been subjected to a psychological war of ideologies, and we've been herded into these ideological boxes where you're in the extremes view you if you and then you see it anytime, like Bill Maher is a perfect example, right? The left is coming after Bill Maher because he had dinner with Trump, and and it's like as soon as you step out of line you're seen as an enemy, right? And you see it with like the way they categorize a lot of like the Joe Rogan people, right? Joe Rogan is a liberal, right? He was always a liberal until a couple of years ago when he was talking about voted for Bernie originally on the when Trump was originally running. Like he's a liberal, but now he's categorized as far right, right? And anybody associated with him is all they see the media characterizes these people like Joe Rogan or any of these comedians that associate with him, Andrew Schultz or Theo Vaughn, right? Anybody who's in this podcast sphere is automatically labeled as right wing, and these people are not right wing. They're not fucking right traditional right wing like Warhawk conservatives. Like there's been this major shift ideologically, and specifically the left loves to label anything not far left that doesn't walk in lockstep with the far left as right wing. It's like this weird dynamic that we've been placed in, and it's because we've been under psychological warfare for 10 years. And I think the
At least, at
media
least 10.
yeah, the media and Trump have played a big part in this division. And anybody with any kind of objective eye on it can see it. You see the left wing media and their bias, and then you see like Fox News and their bias. It's very transparent. And anybody that doesn't walk in lockstep with these two points of view are automatically the enemy. It's bizarre, and it's just
Yep.
what we're dealing with at this point. And I got a dog here with a diaper on. It's what are you doing?
It's an interesting time to be alive, I'll tell you that.
No, and it's one of the things I'm very grateful for, and it's something I when I was in meditation last night, because we've detailed our own difficulties in navigating the life, especially after once you've started walking this path and you see through these illusions, and a lot of people don't, right? And maybe a lot of people fall out of your life because they don't understand you. And this goes back to what I talked about in part one, is like you experience this mystical experience that you can't put into words. It's really hard to describe to people who haven't experienced it. And you're being led by God to these different realizations and this knowledge and this understanding and this feeling inside of you that you can't put into words. But then you look into stuff like Manly P. Hall and these different philosophers, like Plato or Pythagoras, or you look down the line and through history, and there have been people that have described this experience, right? And a lot of the esoteric knowledge in these secret societies, in this in the occult, right, are on the light side, the white path, are people who are trying to explain it as well. And um, but it's hard. It's very hard um, to walk this path sometimes. But that's I had this meditation that made me grateful that I see through it, right? Because I can't imagine being somebody who is wrapped up in this drama, and how fearful and distressing it would be to be somebody that thinks that the Nazis are taking over, or to think that the left is all communists and they're trying to turn my kid gay, or you know what I mean? This fear factor of this
Right.
separation, of falling for this separation okey doke. Like I can't
I'm glad
imagine being under that state of mind at this point.
I'm glad you brought that up because I actually have been called. I went out the other day and I was at the dollar store and I grabbed two notebooks and I grabbed a fresh stack of pens, and for sure, like I started writing, and so I decided, one of the things that you're talking about right now, and I called one of these journals "Know Thyself," and a lot of the stuff that you're talking about, B, it's you know you wouldn't have a lot of that stuff if you do the inner dialogue, if you listen to the inner dialogue, because the inner dialogue is going to tell you everything you need to know. And so there's a few things in here that are very there I just asked questions. I just asked a bunch of questions like, do your morals align with your values? And it's funny because that you brought up Mr. Robot, because I put does not compute no comprende right after that. And I put, so am I to assume that you believe that which you say or that which you do? And then I put, how many versions of me are there? Truth is, there are as many versions of you, or as many as there are options for you in your life, and in terms of like the actions that you take. How many paths are available to me? It's however many paths you want to be available to you. Which path leads to the best version of myself? When choosing the path to go, you have many paths to go, but only one leads to the highest version. And then, asking things like, what purpose do I serve? And am I living my purpose? And then the one final checkbox to mark is my purpose in alignment? So you'll know all these things, like when things start falling into place, when you start experiencing less friction in your life. And um you know I'm not a very big yogi, but one of my friends started studying to do yoga, and he brought up something called yamas and niyamas. So anyone who's a yogi out there and you know about this, go ahead and drop it in the comment down below. But there's a 10 principles. Excuse me. Ahimsa, to not harm yourself. Satya, to being honest with words and actions. Asteya, respecting the property of others. Brahmacharya, I probably destroyed that. Brahmacharya, self-control in all areas, especially in sexual impulse. Aparigraha, letting go of attachments. That's all. Those are the yamas, and then the niyamas are saucha, which is purity, physical and mental cleanliness. Santosha, be grateful for what you have. Tapas, cultivate discipline and perseverance. Svadhyaya, consistently self-reflect and keeping an open mind. And Ishvara Pranidhana, again, I probably destroyed that. Recognize his will and your will. And that's how you'll know if you're in alignment, right? Because there's your will, there's the things that you want to do. And I want to do this and I want to do it so bad. Like I want to go out and do this stuff, but it's pouring rain and thundering out and I want to do it. You know what? But everything is telling me to not do it. And I go out right now and I go out and I drive in this weather and I get into an accident. That was my will, not his will. You know, his will was it was raining, it was thundering. I should have stayed my ass home. I saw the signs, I saw the red flags. What am I thinking? You know? So very interesting stuff. That this came through in meditation myself. I sat there kind of looking at the blank pages and I was like, what am I gonna write about? I don't know. And so I started figuring out like, well, I should get to know myself on paper first, you know, and seeing like how I talk to myself and seeing like what am I thinking about? What am I yeah, what am I thinking about? And how does what my actions every day align with the results I'm seeking? So these are things that I'm asking myself. And obviously there's more on the list, you know, that I continuously gotta keep going back. And again, adds to the self-reflection and keeping an open mind. Because I don't know everything. In fact, and I was telling this, I don't think it was you I was telling you, but I was telling someone, one of my buddies, Jai T. If you see this, shout out to Jai T. He's on Broadway in Nashville. I was telling him, you know, the more I learn, the less I know, and it's only because I try and self-reflect and keep an open mind, you know, and it's little things like this, like you know, hearing the story about you with the egg and the water rising and us trying to like take care of our little eggs. Like yes, this is the great circle of life, and the water is rising, you know, and we all have choices to make, and we all have to know again which path leads to the highest version of ourselves, which path leads to the greatest success. And it means that we're gonna have to make really difficult choices. Not everything can make it across to the other side with us, and that's material things, material attachments, and relationships. Not everyone's going to make it to their side. And like B was saying, like, you know, those eggs didn't make it, you know, that's your path. You have to be okay knowing that you tried your best. And no one could actually ask you for anything else. Like just try your best. And only you know if you're doing your best, and only you should care what judgment you place upon yourself. Don't let other people who don't know anything about you create stories about you in their heads or in other people's heads, because it doesn't matter what they believe. It only matters what you know. And what you know is what you did, and it's between you and your higher self and your higher power. You don't have to prove anything to anybody, only to yourself. Because you're not in competition with me, you're not in competition with B, you're in competition with you. Because I don't care what you do, so long as you're not hurting me or anybody else. That's just the way this works. You know, you're not going to bother me in what you do in your life. In fact, it makes no difference. If you're going to add value to what I'm doing, great. Let's work together. Like reach out, you know, shout out, you know, whatever, do something. But otherwise, like it makes no difference. You know, just continue to focus on you, make you better, and you making you better will make the world better. But you have to self-reflect and you have to keep an open mind that sometimes maybe, just maybe, we individually ourselves can be the problem because we make stupid choices like going out in the thunder and rain.
I, we just talked about that last episode, right? With accountability is what the whole episode was about, was just accountability, and it's a huge step, and it's a huge thing to hold yourself accountable, and that's all you can really do is be able to have the capacity to self-reflect and to be willing to say, look, I fucked up, or yeah, that wasn't the best thing to do, or maybe I need to quit doing this, or maybe I need to stop hanging out with that person, or it's you just have to always be willing and to detach from whatever it is that doesn't serve you. And that's the hardest thing, because our attachments are what's sometimes it's something we see as vital to our life. And I can tell you from experience, as somebody who's lost a lot of those things, there's nothing that that you require in your journey um, that you need, other than just to be accountable, right? Is just the accountability will push you forward, and you're going to find that you're going to get to a place where the things you detach from, you're going to realize, oh wow, that thing was holding me back all along.
Mm-hmm.
It's amazing the things that you can live without, and the people you can live without. It is like, and it's hard. It's not easy. I'm not going to tell you it was easy to cut out a bunch of people out of my life, but a lot of those people are like the geese, right? You're going to try to help them, and all
Right,
they're
they're
going
gonna
to do is hate you for it and think you're the bad guy, and that's just the path, man. And that's I like I said, dude, I came out of that meditation when God gave me that message, like, this is your path. I bawled. I was crying because it was just so powerful and so true. It's just I realized this is the path I've been walking, and that's why I'm alone for the most part. I've got you, Alex. I've got my mom. But all at the by and large, I've lost almost everybody out of my life, and it hasn't been easy. But it was just realizing that I was surrounded by geese. That and it's painful, man. It's not, but your highest version of you is all you really need to get you to that next stage of your life. And sometimes God makes you go through that and makes you lose, to test you and see what you're willing to detach from, what you're willing to give up, because ultimately, um, you have to make space for the next phase. You have to make space, and you have to be willing to lose in order to gain. And you
and
also
trust
have
me,
to
I was
go
just
ahead.
gonna say, trust me, there's no way around it. Like there's no gaming the system. Like you have to follow the same steps everyone else does, right? There's no skipping levels.
No, there's no skipping steps. There's no shortcuts. There's no dragging dead weight with you through the
Mm,
glass ceiling, because
not allowed.
you will hit it with a resounding thud, and you will not get through, because I mean, God, everything works out for your best. Everything is always working out for your best self, and losing that person that you thought was indispensable might be the best thing that ever happens to you, and that's a hard truth. Um, Especially if it's like a relationship, right? Like a wife or a husband, or a brother or a mother. Um,
Yep.
Father. Some of these people are going to be the closest people to you, the ones that you realize were holding you back the most. And
Hmm.
that's a hard truth. But ultimately, it's about you and God. That's the only
Yep.
relationship that matters. And unless you've really experienced this, you don't really understand it, and it's going to be really hard to accept that message. But in the interest of protecting your eggs, man, sometimes you got to do what's best for you, and it's that's just the journey.
Yep. Remember to listen to that intuition, that subtle hint, and that feeling. that first feeling you get that's like, that, and then you're like, no, I shouldn't. Like, no, that first feeling you get is like that's your intuition telling you, like, to take action, right? Now the rest is up to you. Are you bold enough to do it? We're gonna know. We're gonna find out pretty soon, aren't we?
It's that
Because
same quote we said last week. The cave you fear to enter holds the treasure that you seek.
that's
You get
right.
that intuition, like, oh, there's that cave.
That's right.
Uh, I need to go in there. It's usually the things we fear the most are the things we have to do.
I,
Things that we
and I
try
would
to avoid are the
and I
things
would
we.
really love. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I was just gonna say I would really love to know, from our audience out there, if they've been bold to take action on something recently in their life that has made a huge impact, that they realize that from taking action, it wasn't like, oh, that wasn't so hard after all. Like, it was a lot easier than I thought. And the real conflict was just in your mind. Like, I would really like to know, genuinely like to know, if people have done this recently and just said, screw it, I've got nothing else to lose, and just went and did something to try and make their life better. I would love to hear about it in the comment section below. And on top of that, while we're on that topic, I see that we have grown in some numbers, so I appreciate you guys subscribing, um, and liking and continue to follow along. Please continue to do so. We appreciate you. We do try and take at least once a week out of our lives to try and put this stuff together for you. Again, there's zero benefit out of our lives for this besides the fact that I get to talk to B, for a solid hour or two every week, which I love. So even if that's at the very least what I get out of it, that's the benefit I get. But hopefully you as an audience get to learn something from our lives, from our perspectives, from our journey that you could apply to your daily life that will help make your experience in 3D a little better than it was yesterday. That's kind of the goal here. And it's not here to do fear porn and like make you worry about, the future. It's more about to get you thinking about the future. Like, if you could do what you wanted to do for the rest of your life, start trying to figure out what that is. Like, I have a feeling that over the next coming weeks or months, we're gonna have an opportunity to kind of like redirect our lives into starting to like figuring out other aspects of what life means to us. So if you don't already know like what makes you tick, what really gets your jollies going, maybe you should take some time off and take some time to like go into your by yourself, get rid of the wife or the husband, the kids for a few days, tell someone to pick up the slack, and just get a babysitter. I don't know, but like you need to figure out you, because otherwise you're gonna be miserable forever. So do yourself a favor, and do your family and friends a favor. Like, go into seclusion for a couple days and just get to know you, hang out with yourself, hang out with your higher power. Like, you get some crayons and color in a coloring book. I don't freaking know. Do something that's gonna bring the inner child out of you.
Yeah, the inner child, that's a perfect. Yeah. What did you like to do when you were a kid? What made you happy as a kid that got taken from you that you didn't, that you haven't thought about for years? For me, it was I used to love playing baseball. It was baseball was my life when I was a kid. So like a while back I went to the batting cages and I literally was so fucking happy that after I went to the batting cages because it was just like this part of me that had died that was a lot I got to experience again, and it's just little things like that that you never know what that can spiral into. It's about up spiraling, not down spiraling. So find
Yeah,
ways to up spiral in your life. And there's never been a better time than right now to explore yourself and find out what makes you tick. Find out something that maybe you can benefit from that you love to do. Like that's the fucking goal of everybody, right? Is to be able to do something for a living that they love. And being that we're coming to this place, right? We were kind of sounding the alarm about the dollar and the economy and all this stuff earlier. But like with AI coming in, a lot of jobs are going to be gone, and they're starting to really acknowledge this. I think Obama was talking about it the other day. Um, this is a real problem coming up in the future. We don't have much time left, but like this is the time right now is to start looking at the future of your what do you want to do with the rest of your life. If the AI came and took your job tomorrow, how would you make ends meet? You need to start thinking about that. You need to start thinking about what do you offer the world? What makes you tick? What do you offer the world that maybe nobody else does? What are you good at? What do you love to do? Find out these things about yourself. I think there's never been a better time than right now. I mean, COVID was a great time because we had that little pause and that people were getting paid to do nothing. That was when I kind of found myself. So like give yourself, like Alex said, give yourself some grace and some time to really meditate on yourself. Find what makes you tick. And maybe you never know, maybe you can turn your hobby into a career. Maybe you can kind of get ahead of the eight ball of the AI coming and taking your job. Maybe you can find something that will be rewarding for you in the long term. And you know,
I just want to add one last thing, and then I'm done. I don't need to do anymore. But it was Alex Hormozy put up a post that said, "It's not your 9 to 5 that's killing you. It's your 5 to 9. What you're doing when you're not at work. Remember
Mhm.
that."
Yeah, a couple hours a day, man. A lot of us, you have a 9 to 5. I used to have one. I don't anymore, thankfully. But we come home from our 9 to 5s and we're exhausted and we're like, oh, all I want to do is sit and watch TV. That's a sacrifice you have to make. You have to sacrifice your time with TV and put that extra hour, 2 hours, even a half an hour into something beneficial for you. Your me time is something I told my sister. I told her you need to start meditating because she's very agitated all the time. She's got a kid and she's got a job, she's got her husband, she's got all these things, these factors that make her angry and make her on edge. And I said, you need to find time to meditate. Oh, I don't have time to meditate. I was like, everybody's got 15 minutes. Find 15 minutes in your day for
Yeah.
yourself. That's out of love for yourself. So I think that's a good place to end it, man. I think just put some time into yourself. Take those
Yeah.
eggs, take those eggs out of your nest, put it up on higher ground, metaphorically speaking. It's not just about your money or that kind of stuff. It's about your internal. Get get in touch with you, and you'll thank us later. I promise.
That's right.
And
We love you.
we love you. See you next time.
Peace.
Watch Mr. Robot.
So what you waiting on? What? Do you dream, Elliot? You scraping so hard like you ain't never asked yourself this before. I said, do you want to be here right now? And I don't mean like here, I mean here in a cosmic sense, bro. Like, existence could be beautiful or it could be ugly. But that's on you.
How do I know which one's for me?
Dream. You gotta find out the future you're fighting for. Sometimes you gotta close your eyes and really envision that shit, bro. If you like it, then it's beautiful. If you don't, then you might as well fade the fuck out right now.